Right. Says we're live.
Good evening.
Good evening, Billy. Thank you for conversating with me about this stuff.
What are we in for?
So I've had so much on my mind today. Um, so I've been thinking about the white guilt problem our society as a whole has. Actually, I want to start by showing you this thing because well, I think I sent it to you though. The feminist cult has a white guilt problem. And I think this is directly related to what they do in organizations that they infiltrate. May these times be a reminder to white women who have a long history of carrying water for the patriarchy. Blah, blah, blah. You can
Sorry, that
lie.
wasn't history. That wasn't history. That was what was that? Her story.
Oh, her story of carrying.
What
Huh.
the hell does that mean?
Oh, I don't
I've
know.
never heard of her story before.
It's probably a typo, perhaps?
Just take any random word and try and feminize it.
Maybe. You can lie for it, stay silent for it, give your life for it, sell your soul for it, starve yourself for it, follow all the rules of it, sacrifice your children for it, carry gallons of water uphill for it, protect all the powerful men for it. And for a time, it may give you a job title, a paycheck, a longer leash, a few gold stars, some extra privileges, and the illusion of having power too. But ultimately, it will never let you win. It will never protect you. It will never love you back. It will never have your back. It will never quench your thirst. In the end, the patriarchy will always sacrifice you too, dear woman. It will set you on fire, then leave you alone to drown in a pool filled with the very water you spent your life carrying. You too will ultimately die of thirst by the very patriarchy you spent your life watering. Reminder, your smash the patriarchy feminism must be intersectional, or in the end, it will leave you dying of thirst too. Reminder, if your matriarchy now is not led by Black, Brown, and Indigenous women and voices, it's just patriarchy with lipstick. So that sounds just like the feminist cult. Like if you were just to switch patriarchy and matriarchy, like it sounds like what happens within the matriarchy that they then blame men for.
Yeah. Yeah, because anyone, well, not anyone, I suppose. Maybe I'm being a bit too generous, but particularly guys will say it. They'll make the arguments. So I don't really need to detail it out too much. But the patriarchy doesn't work like that. It
Right.
actually protects women. It looks like it gives women their rights. It does. It provides them privileges. It gives them housing and support. So where the feminists come out with this sort of like patriarchy are gonna betray and backstab you and leave you hung high and dry, that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, um, chivalry, the gentleman, um, protect women. Women are seen as vulnerable. Where did this notion come from? It comes from men.
Yeah.
Men recognizing and valuing a woman, and they're not being derogatory when they say like she is smaller, weaker, more vulnerable as a put down. They're saying that as a like a endangered. This is gonna sound all right. Maybe I might sound misogynistic, but it's almost like an endangered species. The WWF wildlife, we've got to look after these ladies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Respect your mother. Look after your mother. You know,
Yeah.
women and children first. And then you're going
Yeah.
to turn around and say, patriarchy, evil, they're going to leave you high and dry. If anything, the patriarchy are leaving their own men high and dry
Yeah.
because they have to put the woman first. So
Yeah.
the male is culturally brought up to be disposable, sacrificial. And he's okay, generally speaking, a male understands that. He'll die for his country. So it's just how it is.
Yeah. But that's fear mongering. That's super fear mongering.
What I'm saying, or
No, what that slideshow was saying.
oh yeah,
They're gonna do all these terrible things if you.
yeah, and therefore you should strike first before they get you.
Right. Even though they're literally confessing to what the feminists do to each other. But
Yeah.
they just blame it on the men. It's crazy. So Grace sent me this thing on it's Fort's academic will of privilege.
Ooh.
So the academic will of privilege provides an alternative method to assigning authorship and credit in scientific papers, as opposed to the classic merit system, which, in our view, perpetuates inequalities in academia. We believe that the WAP can serve as a starting tool to generate deeper discussions on the concepts of privilege, power imbalances, implicit bias, positionality, and intersectionality. Furthermore, we believe that WAP helps raise awareness of the hidden curriculums and systems conferring power and dominance to the minority of researchers as a means to galvanize change in norms and culture towards a more equitable academia. Look at this shit though, Billy.
Wheel of
Oh,
privilege
can you make that bigger?
categories of identities, experiences, and statuses which affect access to opportunities in academia. It's based on the web of oppression, or wheel of power diagram first described in the 2008 book Critical Multicultural Social Work by Jose Cisneros and colleagues, and subsequently popularized by Sylvia Duckworth. The categories include some demographic characteristics, such as identity and race, experiences and circumstances such as citizenship status and childhood household stability, and career characteristics such as the level of education and the type of institution you're affiliated with. In our
Okay, it finally got clear. Look at this though. Can you see it okay?
If I squint, I can see the outside circle and the next circle in. What is this? Like an eyesight test?
Yeah.
The very. I can see most of it, and some words are a bit. What is that supposed to say? But I suppose you're like looking. Where to begin with this thing? What, you're looking from the outside, working your way. Oh, I see. There's another ring there, a grey ring, race,
Yeah.
elf, being, child development. So that's how the colors are being allocated. So where do you want to start this?
Well, hold on. There's more.
work, we felt a need for a social justice-based method of determining authorship status. We used the academic wheel of privilege diagram to achieve this. We assigned points depending on the author's identities and experiences. Categories in the outer ring of circles equaled 1 point, the middle 2 points, and the innermost received 3 points. We then calculated a sum score of these points with each identity weighted equally. Although this exercise was very helpful, using the diagram proved difficult. We've developed this Shiny app to streamline the process of calculating your score. Every category has a range of options from which you can choose. You can exclude categories which are not relevant to your circumstances, or change the weighting for each category if needed. You can also choose the calculation method which best suits your needs. Once you've filled in all of these categories, you just need to click Calculate and it will tell you your score. Our next steps are to refine the categories and make the app more adaptable so that it can be used in a wider range of academic contexts. Please get in contact if you would like to contribute to this. More information about the academic wheel of privilege is available in our position statement. We hope that this will be useful as a method to determine authorship order, as part of diversity, equity, and inclusion training, or simply as an exercise in self-reflection.
An exercise in self-reflection. Hello, Fiona. Hello, Mescaline Dreamer. Hope you guys are well. What is that? I mean, instead of merit, it explicitly states that academic will of privilege provides an alternative method to assigning authorship and credit in scientific papers, as opposed to the classic merit system, which in our views perpetuates inequalities in academia.
So we've devised a system where we can undermine current established, the status quo way of doing things, so that we can rig the game in our favor and rate ourselves as a 10.
You know, it sounds just like I get this magazine of this specific leaders in Texas, and it said the same thing because it's talking about equity. Equity means equally high access to opportunities and success for all individuals, regardless of any social or cultural factors. It means removing any predictability of success or failure that currently correlates with social or cultural identity markers, interrupting and escalating unfair practices, and consistently mitigating biases. Sometimes it entails differentiating our processes and our practices and taking into account those who haven't had access or opportunity due to systemic racism, sexism, ageism, homophobia, or transphobia, and actively trying to correct those imbalances.
But it reminds me of that saying that is empathy for the wicked is cruelty to the sort of like the innocent, the vulnerable, those who deserve it. So by trying to be virtuous and we want everyone to be successful and win. We don't want any losers here. You're all winners, participation trophies for all, and all this.
Yeah.
It undercuts those who actually do deserve recognition.
Yes.
And generally it brings the standard down, because if you've got someone who's trying to build a portfolio, work on their skills, they're trying to level up, they'll be like, I don't need to. I can just doss around and I'm still going to be given a certificate at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all for what? So that everyone can go, woohoo! You go, girl.
Yes,
And
it
celebrate
is.
and celebrate in their lower achievements.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
anyone who is like the crabs in the bucket now. So any of these girls, I don't know why I'm picking girls as a group.
Because most diversity hires are women. Let's be honest.
It doesn't, you know, the society, the societal bucket of crabs.
Yeah.
Whichever member of that group starts to ascend for some reason, maybe they actually decided to do some work, then shame on you. You are being, they'll sort of around what is it called, like go through loops, and they'll word it in a way where it's like, because you're excelling, you are an extremist, you're a tyrant, you're a fascist, you're some sort of dictator, you think you're
Right.
the boss, you're going to be knocked down a few pegs, you're basically the crab escaping the bucket, and shame on you for making the rest of us feel shame. So that individual not only has to self-sabotage to make to be a people pleaser and not rock the boat, but in some ways you could argue is not just suffering as like self-deprivation, but suffering in the sense of like having to inflict self-harm purely just to satisfy the vultures, the hyenas, the remaining crabs who are bitter,
Yeah.
who should really be looking at that person as sort of inspiration or as a leader or as someone as like can help guide them,
Yeah.
or as a competent team player or something. But instead, this is all kind of in the category. It's like it's got nothing really to do with like academia, with productivity, with meritocracy, with success, with what people would sort of consider like capitalistic sort of ideals or whatever, like protocols. Is boiled down to, wow, you hurt my feelings, basically. You're making me feel bad about myself.
Yes.
So it's quite a selfish, spiteful act to try. Is one thing if you've got this on a micro scale in a tight little, small cluster, but to sort of implement all, now we're going to have spreadsheets and diagrams and trying to spread this new notion around, this contagion effect,
Yeah.
and so that other people also adopt it to normalize it, is an extra level of sickness and depravity.
There's something that stood out to me in this. One person cannot be diverse. There's no such thing as a diverse candidate, or a diverse teammate, or a diverse hire. That language is often code for identifying the race and gender of a person without explicitly naming it, and that can cause harm and perpetuate stereotypes. I don't think that means we shouldn't use the word diverse or diversity, but I think we should think critically about how we are using it. We should always strive to use language that is accurate, inclusive, and empowering. This is something my mentors have helped me to realize. I'm curious, when I meet this guy, I'm going to ask him who his mentors are. I'm going to ask him that.
Right. We get bogged down with the semantics of subject areas.
Yeah.
So right now we're sort of talking about
DEI.
equity. Yeah, equality, equity, fairness, and as we peel back the layers, these buzzwords aren't actually. They've got nothing to do with what's really going on. It's like a red herring. It's like smoke and mirrors. It's double speak. So there's a ulterior motive or agenda that is taking place here.
Yeah.
And it's to sort of hop, skip, and jump to it. It's to do about control. Because let's take the word diversity, because you just mentioned it. They're trying to say that if you acknowledge diversity, then you inherently become discriminatory. You end up introducing stereotypes or discrimination or maybe favoritism or something like that, because you're putting people in boxes, and that's wrong, and you shouldn't do it. We're all equal. We should all be treated equal. Well, it all depends on the context. Like, a lot of these words, they sound as if they're negative. Like the word manipulation, generally we think of as a negative word, but it's actually a neutral word. You know, so we think discrimination must be bad, but discrimination can also be good. We don't really account for how good discrimination is. It's good to, because discrimination is a little bit like discerning. You need to be able to have filters to sort things out. So if you don't have discrimination and you say no to certain things and you just say yes to everything, you can't really have a system of value or structure built upon it, because
Right.
nothing means anything. Nothing carries any weight because you're not allowed to be discriminatory. You're not allowed to discern. You're not allowed to allocate value to anything.
Yeah.
So how do you
Look.
recognize? So how can you recognize what's good for some, for either a person or for society or for a business or whatever, if you can't have this kind of, if you want to call it like a spectrum of evaluation? It's just basically everything and anything goes.
Right. Right.
So anything that's good gets mixed with the bad, and so what you end up with is bad, because, not to sound like a purist, but it's like, let's say, as a sort of analogy, if, all right, movie analogy, The Fly, right? Have you seen The Fly? Right.
When I was a kid, with
Right. So
Gold.
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Gold. Yeah.
Yeah. So before the experiment, he is 100% human. After the experiment, he has, I don't know, 0.1% fly DNA. Oh, spoilers, by the way, if you haven't watched the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm having to go by memory, but he's talking to the computer about this, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe it's in a book or something, but he kind of theorizing, well, can he just keep going through the machine so that he can kind of dilute the fly DNA? And the response is that no matter how many times you go through the machine, yes, you're diluting the fly DNA, but it's still there. So you're not 100% human anymore. There is no undoing this. You have been, you know, so going back to what I'm saying about if you're mixing the good with the bad,
Yeah.
is that once you sort of put a drop of bad in the puddle of good, there's no getting that out of there.
Hello, Johnny.
So with, and probably more importantly, what I'm about to say is, without that discrimination aspect, that would mean there's no boundaries. And that's the important point about this, is that what they're trying to do is get rid of boundaries, because boundaries is an obstacle.
Yes.
From their point of view, but it's essential. It's crucial. That without that boundary, you end up with the fly problem. So if, I don't know what Jeff Goldblum's character name is in the Fly movie, but if he had a boundary there, whereas like no flies allowed, like in his code for the computer, like the computer that's running the experiment or whatever, that's controlling the machines, if it had some sort of line of code there which was like, only teleport humans and don't teleport any other foreign DNA or something like that, you know, that would cause he would have been more successful. I don't know, I'm kind of theorizing here and I'm playing with the idea, but you know,
Yeah.
and how is he to know about that anyway? But the point is that boundaries are there. Boundaries, yes, can be restrictions. They can prevent you from doing something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Boundaries can help protect you.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
how you It's how you distinguish one person from another person.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of funny in a way, because these people want to be seen. These woke people, these feminists. Oh, look at me, I'm a unicorn. And what they're doing is kind of counterintuitive, because they're trying to eradicate any boundaries that restrict their movement or control them. They don't want to be limited in any way. They want free reign, free access. They want it all. They're all greedy little sloths. In doing so, they erase themselves in the process.
Yeah, something I've realized, the boundaries. So when you work in a chaotic environment that's constantly abusive, it erodes your boundaries of self-protection. That's why when you were in the last chat that I was having with Psych, when I was asking about the fear thing, and you brought up, well, do you look both ways before you cross the road? And I didn't correlate that with a fear, just more like a self-protection. Like, because when I look at a bunch of people that don't fucking defend themselves, I I see their fear and I hear about their fear as the reason why they don't protect themselves. Like, it's
Okay, so this is an interesting topic, and really it's a conversation, a stream of deserving of its own. Really, is like,
really.
what is fear? Are we talking about fear, or are we talking about trauma?
Mm.
And the kind of programming we receive as we get older and stuff. Yeah, thanks, Johnny. So Seth Brundle, look at that, he knows. I bet he looked it up. But yeah, that's right. Yeah, so crossing the road, fear. You can have rational fear, right? It's a rational fear. Like, you got a flame on a cooker. You know, if I say, go on, put your hand in there, you'll say no. Why not? Oh, because I'll get burned. It's like, well, how do you know? You know, like, well, science tells me so. It's like, yeah, but have you done it ever before? How do you know? Maybe you got an immunity. Like, you got to test it. You know? So you'll probably be a bit hesitant. And what is stopping you? This kind of agreed knowledge that, given the pattern of observations in the past and history and people's accounts and things, that fire burns,
Yeah.
and it's not a good idea to go cooking your limbs. You know, does that constitute a fear, or is that kind of just a sort of I mean, it's sort of like a survival, part of a survival mechanism. I suppose a good artifact of how entrenched these fears are is auditory. So you're more likely to, you get startled, you jump at a noise, like a jump scare. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the sound that will make you react quicker than the visual. So neuroscience, not that I know all that much about it, but your ear, there's less wiring for your ears to connect to your brainstem compared to your eyes, which has to travel to the back of your head first. So your eyes take more processing time before your literal eyeballs will see things before your brain actually registers what you saw. You know, but obviously your eyeballs themselves aren't brains, even though some people say they are extensions of your brain. But whatever. The point I'm making is that that's why sometimes you can see something and it takes you a moment to register it, like, oh, I don't know what to do. The freeze response, like deer in the headlights. You But if there was a sudden bang, without even thinking, you get startled, and your body is getting ready to jump for jump to cover, jump for safety. It's ready to jump into action. So this plays a part in like having reflexes as well. And there's this kind of quirky. Some of the philosophers, psychiatrists, ponder about, well, where do we get our fear of things like snakes, for instance, or maybe spiders or something like that. And this goes into the idea of ancestral trauma or ancestral sort of knowledge from way back in our Unga Bunga days, that they've had to deal with a lot of snakes. And so through genetics, even though we might not have, even though we in our modern day, we might not have ever seen a snake. Like I'm in the UK, I've never seen a python just randomly, but I'm pretty much sure if I were to see one, I would return. I would be acting as if I was a caveman again and running for a big club, or something. So that's like a fear that's been encoded into our DNA and carried over centuries.
Yeah, I wonder.
But then going to the point of what you're saying about some of these women, I can't remember how exactly you phrased it, but how it's to do with their trauma, really, and how that spills into having fears, and probably irrational or delusional type of fears, or paranoia, kind of conspiratorial lines of.
I don't think it's irrational because it's based on already lived experience. It's based on, like, there are cultures that if you don't kiss the ass of and work yourself to death and do all the things you're not supposed to be doing, if you ever say no, they'll start punishing you.
Okay, so this is a fallacy then, maybe, that you're pointing towards. It's like what guys will say, I had a crazy ex-girlfriend, I'm never going to date again. Why? Because they're all crazy. You don't actually know that.
Yeah.
So you're using past experience to as a crystal ball, as a or maybe fatalistic, deterministic, as it's going to let you see into the future. And so you don't ever, because you don't want that to happen to you again, you rather not risk it. So you become avoidant, you withdraw, you say, I'm not going to bother date ever again. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't want to get hurt. And it's almost like a little bit of you don't have much faith in yourself. You get this a lot in the narcissistic community as well, where they're adamant, they're sure, they're sure as sure can be, kind of thing, that whoever they're going to date next is going to be just as bad as they're going to end up meeting a narcissist again, sort of thing. But it's like, well, didn't you learn the last time? Because if you haven't learned the last, history kind of has a way of repeating itself. So it's like a cycle, and you'll keep having these bad encounters until you learn your lesson. This is what guys will often try and talk with each other about, you need to be able to spot the red flags, you need to be able to vet her, and you need to have backup plans just in case, you need to have lower expectations, you need to stop romanticizing and living in la la land and being all puppy-eyed or whatever. You need to be a bit more grounded, a bit more less codependent to her, to needing her, so that if things did go bad, you're not too bothered by it. And you know what? Even if it did go bad, chances are it's not going to sting you as much as it did the first time. But that doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind and you just go for it. It means the idea here is that basically that the pain should really be teaching you, not instilling fear to make you want to run away. So what does this mean? It means that people who tend to have higher levels of fear have higher levels of insecurity. Those who are more secure in themselves.
But Billy, a lot of tyrants will use somebody's security as leverage. So I know that there's systems that will punish people by messing with their paychecks.
Yes.
And that's their security. I mean, they're going to work for a reason. Like,
no, but it's a dependency, because they're dependent on that paycheck. But if they've got a side hustle, if they've got savings, if they've got access to other funding or something like that, then if their paycheck was being targeted, they might not necessarily panic as much. They'll just be like, you know what, fuck this job, I'm out of here, I'll go get another one, because I'm so secure in my abilities and competency, I know I can get a job just like that. So it's like, if you want to use my salary, my paycheck, as your angle, as your leverage to try and manipulate, to coerce me, then screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, I don't get it. I was told recently that I'm being taught a lesson by giving me what I've been asking for a while.
You asked for it.
I know.
Now you're gonna get it. Serves you right.
But it doesn't make sense that it was like, it's supposed to be to teach me a lesson. And then I got to thinking about it, because I've been wanting days off. And I think the lesson that they're trying to teach me is there are people that don't want days off. That it would actually hurt if they did. So they're using it as like a fear-mongering fucking tactic to keep people in line. Don't follow what I'm doing, because look what we did to her. Like, I'm like, is this fucking real? Billy?
Okay.
Is this real?
The structure is actually something that is quite, funny enough, is actually quite common, in a sense. So when people are more healthy and they want to teach a lesson, usually it is like, I say, so parenting would be a good example. You want to teach a kid a lesson, kind of thing. So the kid is being naughty in some way. They're eating a whole box of chicken nuggets, and you're thinking, you're gonna make yourself sick. So the parent, instead of trying to put a stop to it, lets the kid devour this box of chicken nuggets. And now the kid is like groaning, "Oh, my stomach is going to explode. I'm dying." And it's like, "I told you so. You got what you wanted. You asked for it." So I hope you learn a lesson. Don't be a greedy pig there eating all those nuggets.
Right.
Whether the kid learns from it, who knows? But so that level of cruelty, in a sense, because you're allowing someone to self-harm in a way, isn't for no reason. It's to kind of like prove a point.
Yeah.
Because the kid's not going to listen to you tell them no, so they're going to have to learn the hard way, by their own hands, by their own chicken finger licking hands.
Yeah.
Now, when an unhealthy, manipulative, when a narcissist tries to teach a lesson,
Yeah.
they're not really teaching a lesson for the benefit of that person. It's for the benefit of the narcissist. So it's not really. It's not a lesson in the sense of enlightening someone, or in sense of making someone more self-aware, or this. It's behavioral modification. It's a coercion to make someone modify their behaviors in a way that appeases the narcissist / abuser / whoever, the manipulator or whatever. Which ends up more often than not backfiring. So this idea of be careful what you ask for is very detrimental to someone who is a narcissist, because then they've got no one else to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
And they have like a healthy person will realize, damn, I did this to myself. Okay, I take ownership of that. I learned my lesson. But the narcissist can't take ownership that by their own actions, they're now incurring the consequences. So they'll blame shift, they'll project, "Oh, you tricked me. Oh, you manipulated me. I'm the victim, even though I'm the one who caused the problem." So it's almost kind of like a wasted opportunity of self-realization. But in your scenario, they're trying to have the kind of, the last laugh, like, watch what happens to her. We'll get her. We'll teach her a lesson. Just you wait. But if it has no effect on you, then somewhere down the line,
literally been what I've been asking for months.
Yeah.
That's what's so confusing to me. And I think it's confusing because I don't think it was really meant for me. Because it wasn't said to me, it was said to other people. But I don't think it was meant for me, that specific lesson.
Well, perhaps because maybe they typically, what works on one person, they assume will work on other people. So they don't have a range. Well, they do have a range of strategies, but they're not very adaptive. They're maladaptive people. That's why they don't really learn from their mistakes. So they can't really see people as individuals. You're all just utensils, pretty much the same utensil. So if anything, they would look at you as, there must be something wrong with you. Why isn't it my little spell cast in here, my little trick of my little voodoo curse. I'll put a hex on you. Why did this not work on you, but it did on everyone else?
Yeah.
Now, because it had no effect on you, what ends up happening is that energy has to go somewhere. So if you're not paying the price, who is?
Right. Exactly.
And this is where it backfires.
Yeah. I just can't tell if these crazy bitches are stupid or they just think that they're that untouchable.
Both,
Yeah.
basically, both, and a few other caveats in there as well. But generally, you do get pretty clever narcissists and toxic, unhealthy people who are borderline, who are very creative, very clever, but it's underpinned, undermined by some key aspects, like for instance with a narcissist, because they have this trouble with self-reflecting, they can't, and which ends up, long story short, ends up making them maladaptive. There's no real refinement going on. So yes, they can be very academically smart, like in terms of empathy, they could be very good at recognizing people's emotions, but they don't feel the emotion. They don't have the emotional empathy component. They're missing gears here. So
I don't know that they're that good at recognizing people's emotions, because I've been asked multiple times if I felt certain ways, like negative emotion wise.
no, they understand the theory behind the like if I stole your dog, in theory,
Yeah.
that should make you sad. So if you start getting upset about it, maybe you might be angry about it, maybe you might be waving a fist at me about it, or maybe you might be crying and sullen and things like that. I would sort of put two and two together and be like, those emotions are a result of her dog being stolen. So they could recognize that something isn't normal. The word for this is that they become hypervigilant. They become hypersensitive, because your emotions are playing is essentially what's going to end up giving them access to supply. So there's invested interest in wanting to be able to recognize someone's state of being. Let's say you're very smiley, radiant, bubbly, bouncing around. They might not necessarily know the reason why that is, but they'll pick up on it and be like, she's in a good mood. Maybe she's feeling very generous today, kind of thing. And they'll be looking at how to extract from it. They're always looking to extract. So they're looking to see what kind of, are you in the mood, or depending on what mood you're in, what kind of supply can be extracted from this. So it's not a skill in terms of wanting to connect with another human being like a normal person would have, like a normal human being's empathy kind of thing, like a natural. It's a targeting system. And it's also an opportunity. So like if you're raging and you're angry, their calibration will pick up, right, she's in a fighting mood, let's poke the bear then. Let's piss her off even more, and extract that fuel.
Yeah, I want to test my superego. I asked Psych about my superego. He's like, I don't really have an opinion. know who the fuck you are, but you were not invited here, so you can kindly fuck off. Yeah, my super ego.
I was a bit. I saw that. I was glancing over at that comment. I was like, presupposing empathy. I was like, well, I'm not really talking about empathy. I mean, I mentioned it.
Yeah, they're not listening to engage in the discussion. So,
No.
crazy bitch alert. So that's another thing. That's what I've been trying to get across. Like, these crazy bitches are constantly putting you in a position to fucking defend yourself. They
Well,
they
what we were
pick and they
talking.
pick and they pick and they pick, and that actually it happened to me the other day from a crazy bitch that I'd never met before. She wanted me to justify some things, and I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah, it's
Like, who
moving
are you?
goalposts and trying to derail so
Yeah.
that you end up going down some rabbit hole. But to rewind, what we were talking about is you were asking if they're stupid, if they're being arrogant, and I was basically saying
Yeah.
that yes and no. Is that they do, if we're talking like in machinery in terms of like gears and cogs, it's like they do have some gears, so
Yeah.
they're able to sort of work, but they don't have every single gear or the critical gears that could, for example, whoever that person was asking about empathy, that would allow them to engage actual empathy. So instead what they engage is a malformed version of empathy that is used in a way that garners supply, because that's what they're. Why the narcissist isn't going to care about being empathetic with anyone. They don't even recognize there's anyone else outside of themselves. You're all just objects, basically, to be exploited. So there's no real need. They don't need to be. They're not attached, emotionally attached to anyone. They're attached to their delusional fantasy, but not to people. That would be a hindrance. So they have no interest in wanting to have empathy. However, if empathy allows them access to getting supply, now you've got the narcissist's interest. So they're not stupid, but it's a little bit like the difference between knowledge and wisdom. They've got knowledge, but they lack the wisdom. They've got things like they can speak English, they know how to do maths, they can spell words, they know how to function day-to-day routines, but they don't really know how to they don't see the bigger picture in all of this. And this is where they can slip up. They can lack the foresight, especially if they're living in the present moment or in impulsivity. They don't need to think about the future because every day is a hyper vigilant sensory overload. They're overwhelmed with trying to protect and defend their ego. There's no space to consider the future at this point. Every day is a scarcity mindset. So it's going from moment to moment from moment. They're learning how to wing it, and so far, luckily, generally, this is another kind of phenomenon that people sometimes bring up. It's like, how is it a narcissist knows which buttons to press? Surely there must be some kind of awareness going on here. Yeah, for them to be able to know. It's like the narcissist knows how to really hurt someone. How is it they know this knowledge if they're supposedly stupid? It's from trial and error. That's how. It's not that they actually know. They don't actually know. They're not sure. But They've had their whole life of trial and error, pushing buttons on a control panel, and slowly after time have realized that certain buttons are more effective at upsetting people than others. You know, so if it's a woman you're dealing with, you kind of know from trial and error that if you push the fat shaming button, you'll get her upset. Whereas
if she's fat,
yeah, you know, whereas let's say there's a button there that was labeled Wednesday button. You tried hitting that Wednesday button to upset her, nothing happened. Okay, so trial and error, you realize that the Wednesday button does nothing to upset her, but the fat shaming button does. That's not wisdom.
Trial and error.
To us, it appears as if they're wise, because like, how is it they can do it so quickly? They can upset someone with pinpoint accuracy. It's just because of trial and error. They've done it before. They've been doing it million times over. That's why we call it shit testing. You know, they've got their favorite buttons that they've realized are pretty useful, and they're going, right, which one will get what I want? Let's see if I can use the white guilt button.
Yeah, white guilt, Billy. I don't get it. That's a big thing that like, do you think the white guilt was already present before these crazy bitch feminists came in and were like, oh, if black women aren't leading, you're just a water carrier for the patriarchy? Was it there already, or was it a part of? Is it an?
It is most likely a prerequisite. It was already there, under the surface, deep. And this is what I'm saying. Like with their hypervigilance, they can spot that there's some sort of either trauma or sensitivity or insecurity. They might not know the actual wording of it just yet. You know, they haven't gone into the psychology field just yet. But this is why they're going into these fields now, is so that they can get a buzzword or something and be like, we will call this white guilt. You know, so narcissists don't. So basically, this is the point that's made in the narcissist community, which is that narcissists don't create the injury. They look for pre-existing wounds. They're looking for already existing vulnerabilities. That, because it's less work, that is opportunity. That is point of access. And what the narcissist does is they find a crack. They didn't make the crack. They look for already existing cracks. And the narcissist puts a crowbar in there and wedge it wide open. That's how they get in. That's how they cross the boundary. Yeah,
but I think that they would only notice that if somebody just like them put it there to begin with. That's one thing I got out of Brene Brown's book about these people that are button pushers. It was talking about how, I think it was along the lines of parents, like they can push your buttons because they're the ones that put them there to begin with. Like, yeah. So I think there's something with the specific kinds of crazy bitches, and they can see, I think because they can see the kind of abuse somebody's been through. And so they know that somebody just like them made them that way.
Yes. That observation has been said before, basically, yeah. And you're correct in saying that, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of, like the title of this this stream is a little bit like you put like reality tested, but you can kind of test this idea that you just mentioned by looking at, let's say you've got a healthy kid, healthy family upbringing, how susceptible is that kid to being targeted later on in life? Probably chances are a lot lower. The kid has a well-formed self-esteem, identity, ego. They have self-respect. They have boundaries. You know, it's going to be hard to get past their safeguards and corrupt them. Whereas you compare that kid to another kid who comes from an unstable upbringing, problematic parents, inconsistent love. They're divulging, people as they introduce themselves, they'll divulge information. Oh, I came from a whatever kind of home, and so you could see, like, you might not be able to sort of allocate a point score, but in terms of like likelihood, percentage, chances, because manipulators generally, for the most part, want easy pickings.
What, Johnny? Is this true? Congress is trying to undo Doge's initiatives against DEI. Yeah, I was listening to Elon, and he was saying that he was not impressed with the amount of stuff that he was able to do. It was supposed to be something that was way more impactful, but I think he got a lot of fucking pushback. I mean, I heard that, Doge had a conversation with the place I'm at and didn't change anything. So it was supposed to, because it's fucking illegal. Not only is it illegal, it's immoral. You're literally lying and cheating and stealing from the person you're putting into a position that doesn't fucking deserve it. And then you're lying and cheating and stealing from the company. And you're lying and cheating and stealing to the people who have to fucking tolerate those people. So it's all around not a good thing. It's absolutely soul crushing is what it is. Yeah, well, if they weren't so attached to the psychology field, Billy and Johnny, they would. You know how much they rely on the fucking psychology field for everything? That's the biggest proponents of DEI. The people responsible are pushing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're wrong, Billy. Why are your people fucking up society, Billy?
because they're trying to teach us a lesson.
Do you think Dr. Salerno is a feminist? He uses equality a lot.
I don't. I only heard. I think I've seen him speak on one other occasion. But the recent example where he's talking about the narcissist isn't about low self-esteem or shame, and instead it's about I can quote him correctly, he says, excessive investment in image over authentic self.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is so wrong in many ways, structurally speaking, even.
Why?
Can I be lazy? I've got an actual notepad where I was like ranting to myself. I was just like, oh fuck, I'm gonna fucking jot this down while it's in my head. I've got a notepad somewhere. Let me see. I can just read my notes.
Emmanuel, yes, I don't know, Jim. We need corrective measures for market failures. Yeah. Well, there's some places that rely on government funds and taxpayer money, so there is no corrective measure because they can still suck off the government tit. It's not supposed to be that way, but it is.
All right, I found my notes here. Let's see how well I've written.
Okay.
So this is like me just ranting to myself. Right. So he said, and I've got his quote. I've actually got. So he says, narcissism is excessive investment in the image and appearance at the expense of any authentic self.
Yes.
So it's got nothing to do about low self-esteem or shame. So to rephrase a little bit what he's saying, he's kind of like saying that the authentic self is puny, and as such, why not just fake it to make it? You know, fake it until you make it. That's basically the gist of what he's saying here with his expression. So why would the authentic self not be valued and instead a curated fake version is? Childhood trauma, shame, unconditional love you must perform. But his expression there, it would lead me to ask, why would the authentic self be considered puny in the first place? Oh, basically because it's being devalued. And the answer would most likely be because of shame. You know, he's saying that it's not to do with shame. But trying to use Dr. Salerno argument, the investment in the image would be for what reason exactly? He doesn't really explain what the importance. Why would there be an excessive investment in a created image? For what purpose? Especially if it's false and distorted. So would this make it or fake it approach be benefiting in some way in a delusional world? I think not. Because what would it, if it's for a delusional, like a dreamlike world, what would be the need in investing in an image? If anything goes, because it's a fantasy. So his fake it till you make it approach must therefore have some sort of connection to reality. It must benefit in some way. Somehow it functions or benefits in the real world. So how do these things relate then? He doesn't explain. So it comes back to, so for whose benefit then is making it with this image before? And for the narcissist's own benefit? So if this is the case, why does he need to fake it then? Why the need to invest in curating? The narcissist could accept their false self regardless of its image or how it appears, because what the narcissist is after really is supply. because they can't get supply, they can't self-validate. And if they can't self-validate, why can't the narcissist self-validate? So this faking it is trying to pass on like fool's gold. It's trying to dupe people. It's trying to bait and switch. It's trying to get them to hand over the validation because the narcissist can't validate themselves. So what he is describing is basically a con artist. And a con artist is a person who is not brazen or confident enough to be honest in their presentation. They have to be a trickster, you know, that to fool you into hand. So that doesn't really sound like someone who has high self-esteem.
I don't know, Billy.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't be a con artist faking, like presenting a false version of yourself if you valued your authentic self.
Right.
So in terms of like definitions, it almost implies that fake to present something that which you are not is a compensatory. And by investing in a fake version, an image, a portrayal, you inherently are devaluing your authentic self. So,
but I don't think they understand that.
I'm just looking at the argument he's putting forward, the sentence structure and how he's putting things forward. He's saying that they put excessive investment in a false self-image, and that narcissism has nothing to do with low self-esteem. But that's a contradiction, because it's like, well, if you're investing in a false image, you are inherently devaluing the authentic self. So you are inducing low self-esteem. And so what the doctor is doing here is basically cherry picking. So it is not that narcissists possess higher levels of self-esteem, as Dr. Salerno is suggesting. Is what they possess is high levels of arrogance, and arrogance is not esteem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference between confidence and arrogance. I think somebody that's trying to pretend they're confident comes off as being arrogant.
But if you valued your authentic self, you would have no need to invest in manufacturing an alternative version. But if you're investing excessively into something as an alternative to your authentic self, then you are almost confessing to having a low self-esteem. You're basically saying, I don't value my authentic self. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it will help me survive. I think it's weak. I think it's a vulnerability. It's risky. It's dangerous. And so I'm going to distance myself from it and produce something else which will serve me better, which will protect me better, which will provide for me better. So it's basically you don't think very highly of your true being then.
Yeah, I guess if people are just fucking faking it, their authentic self hasn't been exercised. So it's pretty much the bar's pretty low on its performance, right?
Yeah, and they don't really want to be reminded of its presence or its
Mm.
existence. So it's like, well, that sounds like shame.
I don't know. I'm with Salerno on how these crazy bitches, how intentional they are with their abuse. And a lot of them. I wonder if see, I had a thought that, these DEI policies and these white guilt ridden feminists in positions of power created these fucking people by taking away their actual dignity and taking away their self-respect and treating them like children and giving them all this shit that they didn't earn. Like, I feel like it created a lot of these people. But they'd also have to have something inherently, probably in their DNA, that would accept such treatment. Like,
I think that's sort of
not everybody's going to accept that.
yeah, and I think the sort of the takeaway is that there needs to be maybe a bit more appreciation in a sense of, well, why is it you get some people who aren't like that then? What is it about them?
Yeah.
It's almost like having the stars align. Things have to be just right. The conditions and parameters have to be just right to have a what would be considered a healthy, neurotypical, contributing, productive member of society with no need to abuse people or any of that sort of horrible stuff or be problematic in any way. Not saying that they're perfect specimens of the human race. Everyone is fallible and has, their quirks or whatever. But at least to be good enough to be functional, contributing members of society. So what is it? What is this special recipe that facilitates and allows this to happen? So the stars have to align. What does this mean then? Well, it means that we should be kind of grateful and count our lucky stars that conditions were just right, that we didn't end up, that basically that we all have the potential to be like them. That's the scary part of this.
Really?
Is that what does it take to screw up someone's trajectory to make them become like that? Does it take a poor upbringing? Does it take poor financial security or whatever? Does it take some sort of crisis? Does it take trauma? Is there a medical condition involved? Does it take a loss, a bereavement? Does it take a series of these things? What conditions would it take to produce this outcome? And you can almost maybe even look at it as like, maybe by default we are all dysfunctional. We are all deranged by default, and it's some sort of anomaly that because when you start life you're very disorganized. The child mind is still developing. They're little narcissists, they're little psychopaths. So is it a lack of education then that stunts their emotional development? So is it by default we are all monsters? It takes some kind of level of attention, nurturing, care providing that helps to us allows us to develop emotionally with stability, to gain self-awareness, and to cultivate and to grow from there on, to become independent and then look after ourselves, to continue onto a better, good path. You know, because to further my point here is, I always forget the name, that railway, not the experiment, but the study, the discovery, where the railroad spike went through the man's head and took out the prefrontal cortex, I think, and his personality changed. He became much more rude, vulgar, angrier, mean, more callous. Basically, he started to resemble a psychopath. So it's almost like a regression of sorts, or a step back, because that part of the brain in particular, the prefrontal cortex, is the last part of the brain that develops. So we see with brain injuries how it resets the system. So when you're a little infant, or when you're primitive, when your brain is like a primitive monkey brain, it doesn't need to really be very compassionate towards others or considerate. It doesn't have like philosophy and all these conversations. This is like luxury intellectual nonsense. In the brutality of reality, nature doesn't care how intellectually suave and sophisticated you are. It wants you to eat, sleep, shit, and fuck. That's all it wants from you. You don't need a brain to do that, really. So that's, you can see it's kind of like, so is that the diversity here is how it has the brain structured and organized itself. If it spent a lot of time processing and developing in such a way, then it has a better chance of becoming self-aware and being adaptive. It can make the neural connections, and it can learn. But if it's not being, if it's not being developed or shaped, if it's being neglected, then it's gonna not revert, but because it never got to, but it's going to be left with rudimentary systems of survival. It's only going to learn what it needs to learn, and generally that's how people are in general anyway. We don't really learn just because it's fun. Even though a lot of people say they do, but
I think it's fun. I love learning stuff.
Yeah, but we find utility in what we learn.
Yeah,
we see whether or not what we learn has relations to other things, and we expand on it. And maybe we might go through a process of yeeting out irrelevant information. Like, I don't need to know about like how many of you know the names of all the My Little Ponies? Probably none of you. Why? Because it's irrelevant information to you. But I know it.
Yeah.
Why do I know it? Because it's important to my kid.
Yeah.
So it's got application. Knowledge has application, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So these feminists, dare I say, these narcissists, dare I say, these toxic people, they're just concerned with because of scarcity mindset and survival. They're just concerned with what they need to know. What's going to ensure that the organism can continue. Oh, they have to learn to be manipulative. Okay, they have to learn to be manipulative. Oh, they have to invest in a false image, okay, then that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
A means to an end sort of thing.
You know, I was thinking about Sykes' little diagram, and in the top area, it had like anxious and lazy. That's something I hear quite a bit about people, like especially people that are in environments that are consistently getting worse for them. Like there's almost like this. I know silent quitting is a thing. I mean, you still show up, you do kind of the bare minimum, and then you go. Like, you don't have any pride in your work anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I see that in various places. Like a laziness. Is that part of learned helplessness?
People use learned helplessness a little bit incorrectly. There's a little bit what we were talking about earlier, actually. Is they fail at something and think because they failed, they lose their confidence in their ability, so they think they're going to fail again. So there's like a trigger moment. There is a reason why they don't bother change their circumstances. It's not just because they decided to check out or withdraw. It's they've been scorned. They went for a job interview. They didn't get the job. Okay. They're now told to apply for a different job. And they think, I ain't going to succeed. Because they've got this belief that they're now a failure. That is the learned helplessness.
So that could be said for an environment where you've spent 10, 20 years and you've seen it consistently get worse. And you've tried to make it better and nothing worked. And you've seen other people try to make it better and nothing's worked. I keep hearing that, like, nothing's going to change, blah, blah, blah. But I would argue that the slow boil of the frog has been a consistent change already.
Conditioning, yes. That's what makes some of these conversations a bit difficult for people to navigate out of, because it would be very convenient and nice if you could just say, if it was like if it was a problem with a car, you could say, oh, your alternators needs replacing. Okay, out with a broken unit, in with a new unit, problem solved.
Yeah.
But this is not as simple as that. It's not like just one component that needs addressing. They're all connected.
Yes.
So that's why it's hard to put your finger on what is the problem here.
Yeah.
And with how things are, especially in the narcissism sort of soup of things, is circular. They're cycles, they're circular, they're loops. So there is no end. There is no closure. There is no real true discard. The nightmare continues. That's why intervention or therapy is always tricky, because you're not just treating one. You're not treating the cause. You're running around trying to put out all these fires and they're basically symptoms. You're not really treating the disease. And what really is a bit of a gut punch is that after a while, someone will say to them, or they'll come to the realization that the problem isn't really the narcissist. The solution. The solution rather isn't with the narcissist.
Right.
So all this dissecting and everything else
Yeah.
is meandering around in the dark, and what you're really you're if you want to call it a real solution or whatever, is in your own agency.
Mm-hmm.
So you're barking up the wrong tree all this time of like, my work is screwing me over, my family is screwing me over, the society is screwing me over, people, my friends are backstabbing me, and all this sort of stuff. Projecting out blame, externalizing the locus of control, wishing that, if only they would listen to me, if only they did this, if only they would stop being nasty to me. It's all externalization. So the moment you stop barking up that tree and you realize that, hang on, what's the common denominator here?
Mm-hmm.
All circling around me in the center.
Yes.
You then realize that you're the actual problem in this.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah.
Wayne Dyer once said, and I think he got it from someone else, but I like to remember it as him saying it. That's who I heard it from. He said, if you change the way you look at things,
The things you look at change. Yeah. Yeah, I love Wayne Dyer. He was a big part of my early 20s. My friend recommended his like a book. I was actually maybe I was 19 when I first stumbled. Like, my friend, an elder in my tribe, was like, "You should check this out." So yeah, I really like his motto on letting people pull your fucking strings. It's like, why are you being a puppet? Like, I don't know. That's kind of like what I see. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of tyrants. There's a bunch of abusers. And they only have power if you engage, if you take the bait. Like,
yeah.
And so many people take the bait. I mean because it's confusing, because I've actually taken the bait a couple times, and it took me a second to be like, fuck this. I forgot it's not about me. Like,
yeah, I mean,
because they say shit that's just weird or not true, or it's like a harassment of unrealistic expectations, for one. Like, I always, and I keep thinking about exactly why I don't take health advice from super fucking fat people. Like, when people are like, "Oh, time this, time that, you gotta watch your time," I'm like, I can absolutely figure out my time and plan to the minute. Part of being self-employed for a long time, and scheduling time and being aware of time. And then people that are just unaware, trying to confront me about my time, like, or time in general, giving me instructions on time. Like,
yeah, it is a bit frustrating. I hear it, like, people. So when it dawns, the realization that these so-called interactions have nothing to do with you.
yeah.
They're not talking with you, they're talking at you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a relief, but also a bit of an irritation.
Yeah. I get irritated because I've taken the bait a couple times. Like, I felt like I had to defend myself.
Well, it's like if you didn't know better,
Yeah.
or if you didn't pause and had an actual think about it,
Yeah.
you would fall for it every time and think that so and so is spreading lies about me. So when I'm dealing with someone, and especially when they're like new to all this kind of level of sort of talking, and they're telling me their story, and then I turn around and be like, it's got nothing to. It's the narcissist. You and the narcissist. It's got nothing personal. They're taken aback by that. Like, what do you mean it's nothing personal? They're slandering me. They're trying. They're doing all this thing about me. They're spreading rumors and lies. And it's like, yeah, but they don't even think you're a human being. So you have to kind of walk them through, because it sounds almost insane just as it is. So you have to kind of unpack it for them and explain how they're dealing with. It's like shadow boxing. They're basically talking to themselves, and it just so happens to look like you. They're using you as a representative,
Yeah.
as a silhouette of something else, of their own concoction.
Yeah.
So it is irritating that they're trying to attach this to you, but they only succeed if you take the bait and accept them on their terms. When you engage them in a fight, you're agreeing to fight in the ring with them.
Yeah.
So this is why no contact, or grey rock, if you can't manage no contact, is crucial. And yes, it's easier said than done. And people will resist wanting to go no contact, because they're still in their emotional state and trauma bonded and etc. That they'll Stockholm syndrome kind of thing. That will argue with you
Yeah.
and justify why they must stay and defend their name.
Right. Right.
I have to put these rumors to rest. I have to
Right.
vindicate myself. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? No, I don't. You have no. What other people think of you is none of your business,
Yeah.
and that sends them. That they're like, I can't wrap my head around that. What do you mean? What they say of me, what people think of me, is none of my business. Like, well, go away and think about it for a while, and you'll come to understand. So people need time to process and to sort of mull things over. But it's very true, and this is the thing. So victims are okay after a while. Victims, targets, they understand this, and they go, yeah, you're right. And my people who truly know me, people who I matter to, they won't believe the rumors and lies, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do to stop someone saying things about you. But someone who is a narcissist orientated, they can't let that. Someone who is excessive in their investment to their image
Right.
will not be able to stand that, and will continue to try and clear they'll package it as they're clear in their name.
Yeah. It's just crazy how I'm wondering, like, people that are super afraid. Because I'm trying to put myself in some of these people's shoes that are like really afraid to defend themselves. Like, I don't know, maybe it's my psychopathic nature, Billy. I mean, they keep telling me how big this Hydra is and how all the things they could do to you, and maybe I just don't have a fear around it. Like, maybe I don't see them the same way as, like, going back to change the way you look at things, things you look at change. I don't see them as being that dangerous person.
No, and you know how many head hydra. It's the same thing. The narcissist is the devil. I was dating the devil, the man himself, Mr. Devil. I was dating the devil. Oh, evil incarnate. You know, it's like
No,
this
no,
is the most.
this is a many-headed hydra. Thousands,
Oh,
thousands.
the same sort of thing. It's this dramatization, this grandiosity, this you're giving the narcissist or these toxic people far more credit than they deserve. At the most, they're basically opportunists.
Right.
There's nothing special about them.
Except
But
they're in positions of authority.
even then, so what?
Right.
So what ends up happening? So then we have to step back. Well, why is it people artificially attribute cosmic elevation to their supposedly like their partner, their boss, or whoever they've been dealing with?
Yeah.
Because it's shameful to think that you were duped by a dweeb, duped by a moron. You know,
Yeah.
you were lulled by a toddler. Essentially, you know how they say like they're childish. They're like they're children in adult bodies. You know, so to say that, hang on, I'm being tormented by someone who is emotionally stunted. What does that say about me?
And fucking retarded. Fucking retarded. Can I just throw that out there? There was an instant, Billy, there was an instance where I was getting some keys and two of them were trying to figure out how to separate keys because there was like two key rings and they were both put through all the same keys. So they were together and they couldn't figure it out. They're like, oh my God, we got to take all these keys off.
It's quantum
I'm like,
entanglement.
can I just see it for a second? You know, and I literally saw how to do it and then I undid it and I'm like, here.
Like, oh my God, she's a witch, burn the witch.
I was like, how long were you fucking with those? Like, and they're like, wow. I'm like, I don't know. I'm good at puzzles, I guess. It was so funny, though. Yeah, I just probably maybe my lack of fear when it comes to dealing with this stems from the way I see them and the way they interact with me. Like there's I'm definitely treated different. I'm not the one to go to do the things. And most of the time don't take the bait. Like
a lot of times people want they tell their stories because they want emotional validation. So they escalate that they portray the story very vividly. They're very descriptive. They embellish it. They make it captivating. They tell you about the hardships and how much anguish they've had from it and how it's causing such a problem in their life. And oh my God, I've been pushed to the edge. I've walked through the fires and all this.
yeah, the martyrdom.
And now I'm a survivor. You know, I always hate the phrase of survivor. I'm still trying to think of like a better way of phrasing it, but
yeah, the survivor and narcissistic abuse.
I'm an empath now. I've been rebirthed. I rise like a phoenix, and all this sort of talk.
Yeah.
And they're not looking for accuracy, acknowledgement. You know, in terms of accuracy, they're looking for emotional validation. So they want you to buy into they don't really want you to buy into the, well, not that they won't say no to it. I mean, they're more interested in you buying into the story than they are into the account of the story. Like if they spent 10 minutes telling you what's happened to them and you turned around and said, so are you saying to me basically
So
your relationship failed and you're filing for a divorce?
yeah.
You sum it up in a sentence.
Oh yeah.
You know, now you've just knocked the wind out of their sail.
Mm.
You know, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, oh, you spoiled it. You know.
So white guilt.
Because while they were telling that story, it was their moment of being able to shine. They're in the spotlight. They're getting the attention.
Yeah.
That translates to now I'm getting the love. I'm getting the adoration, you know? So it's like they're being a little bit of a narcissist themselves. Who's the narcissist?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see that that's what really mattered here, is that they just wanted a sympathy play. Oh,
Yeah.
you poor injured bird. You know, oh, I'm going to nurse you back to health. Oh, everyone, be nice to this person and cater to their needs. They're a victim now. They're a survivor. Let's all champion the survivor. You know, and make it a kind of badge of honor. When there is no, there shouldn't be a celebration of sorts. It's just basically down at the end of the day, what it is that you experience something, you were hurt by it. Now is the opportunity for you to learn and grow from it. So it's a lesson that'll teach you. You know.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they don't want to actually progress. They don't want to. They don't want to lose the victim status. So because of that, they don't want to recover. They'll say they want to recover. They'll say they'll oh, I went to therapy and I'm learning about it. But they're now building their identity of who they are, because this is how they were introduced to the rest of the world, as a victim of something else. And now they've built their identity on it. So there's an attachment there. They can't let it go.